Hi friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge, and hey, it's the weekend again, and I've got something a little bit special today. This is the TwoSun TS240, and you already knew that. That's why you clicked on the video, so very good. This is a titanium frame lock folder. We've got 14C28N Sandvik steel blade, a nice Bowie style blade here, and yeah, nice pocket clip. This is a beautiful knife, but it's got some flaws too. And I think you might be interested. This is a little bit higher on the price scale. This is not one of my very low budget knives, but it's something that is still within reach to most people. If, some have to save up for a long time and some don't. It's just the way of the world, right? It's got a flipper, or you can bottom flick it very easily with this little fuller flicker nick kind of thing that they've got going. Let's take this to the tabletop and take a good close look at it. All right, let's take a bit of a look at her before we do the size comparison. This is a night morning design. Their logo is right there on the blade. And right here it says 14C28N. And that's all the writing you're going to find on this knife, except for on the pivot collars. They're doing that on a lot of their knives these days. They've got their pivot collars that give the name and the city where it's made. So yeah, it's a good looking knife. Nice satin grind. This fuller nail nick kind of thing is bead blasted, and the rest is all nicely satined. Beautiful knife, in my opinion. The design is awesome. The size comparison with the Ontario Rat 1, there you go. It's clearly a smaller knife. And yeah, well, that's because this thing's fairly big. This will fit almost anybody's hand in the whole world. This is suitable for men who have large hands, and even if you've got slightly extra large hands like I do, if you sneak up a little bit, there's lots of real estate here. Even if you don't use that sneak up, it's not really a forward choil, but that sneak up there, it's still a knife that is a full grip indeed. So yeah, you've got this saber grip, fist grip. The reverse grips are all comfortable because it's nicely rounded back here. Even a reverse pull grip works just fine. It's a beautiful knife. Let me put the Rat away. So here we go. Yeah, we've got this clip point Bowie style blade. It's you can see the grind lines from the satin grind. We've got the false edge up here. It's, well, maybe not even a false edge because it's still quite thick at the spine here. It's more of just a swedge right there. And, it's a little upswept clip point, just slightly. A nice deep saber grind. Sharpness choil right here. And, yeah, beautiful blade. The handle, we've got, let's look at it this side, a little bit cleaner. We've got rounded edges. It's 3D milled, so you can see the milled lines in there. They offer a little bit of texture for better grip. And then you've got these starburst kind of lines, or more of a comet tail kind of lines in here. Well done. And then again, you see the same kind of milling here on the belly that you have here on the spine of the handle. And everything's nicely rounded. There's just two corners right here. The rest is all rounded. There's a bit of a corner here, but not much. There's only two screws holding this together. The one screw at the end of the handle here and the pivot screw. Looks quite nice. I like that they've got their own custom-made screws. Nice stainless steel screws, not button screws that look odd in there. They look great. The pocket clip, it mirrors this kind of these holes here in the handle, so the decorative effect gets mirrored right there. It's an inset titanium pocket clip and 3D milled, and it holds very well. It's got just the right amount of spring tension on there. And with these lines going in here, this does not create extra friction in the pocket, but it holds on just fine. I usually wait longer to show that, but let's do that right now. Show it in a pocket. So here we go. We pop it in. It looks like it's going to have trouble climbing over, but it always climbs over, at least in my experience, very well. It's a little bit exposed there. Looks like you've got something special in your pocket. You know, these holes in here make it look like it's not just your run-of-the-mill pocket knife. I think it looks great. The frame lock, I really like this frame lock. It's been cut out with probably wire EDM technology, which gives you that really thin cutout line there, which I prefer. Knives that have a big wide trench between the frame lock arm and the rest of the handle, you know, it's just kind of ugly, but this has got a nice look to it. Steel lock bar insert held on with 2 screws with an over travel stop as well. So when your thumb gets in here, notice it's got a nice relief cutout there so that you can get your thumb in there, no problem. When you push it over, you can only push it about 1 millimeter past the frame lock, and then the lock bar insert catches, so you can't hyperextend that arm, which is a good thing. Lockup is beautiful. It's exactly what I like in a brand new knife. Lots of room for it to move over, and yet it's fully engaged. Lockup is solid, no blade play up and down, side to side, none of that going on. When you close the knife, the alignment, and actually it might be coming a little bit loose again. One of the flaws is these pivot screws. There's no Loctite anywhere, and that screw comes loose from use. So, of course, I use VC3 Threadmate as my go-to screw holder. I like it more than Loctite, but I am doing a test between it and Loctite. That video will come out soon, probably around the middle of February, where I compare Loctite's chapstick style blue thread locker and Vibratite's VC3 Threadmate to hold screws. So yeah, it's beautiful. I really, really like it. The only thing that could have made this look better is if they would have done the relief cut here on the inside instead of on the outside. But that's fairly uncommon for them to do. And I understand the reasons why they put it on the outside. So the working side here, it still is a very good looking working side on a knife. And the show side, I think it's just awesome. Now, how do you open the knife? Well, we've got a flipper tab here. We've got the flipper tab there that is designed for light switch method opening, so you're just pulling back. Works just great. But it also does work if you're just pushing down on a bit of an angle. Beautiful. The detent on this knife is very good. It holds the blade in. You can do that wrist flick where you're just holding the frame lock of the frame of the knife and coming to a sudden stop, and the knife does not come out, at least not for me. So I like that. So it passes the Canadian Border Services Agency's test for a centrifugal knife, which is a good thing, but it's going to fail the flipper designation. So if this knife got inspected on the way into Canada, it would get stopped and confiscated by most agents. I got mine from White Mountain Knives, and no, it did not get stopped at the border, just like 0 of the knives I've bought from them have been stopped. And yet it's getting close to 200 knives now that I've bought through them, and not a single one has been stopped at the Canadian border. Can't guarantee that your mileage will be the same, but you know, the likelihood is very high. You can get 10% off with my coupon code CCE, and this knife is $79.99 American. Take off that 10% and it is $71.99. Not bad when you see the same knife at AliExpress or on eBay for $100 US. So yeah, that's like 28% off, something like that, whatever the number is. Very good deal. If you don't want to use the flipper tab, you can put your finger just underneath in here and it just wants to open. No problem at all. Just a light little flick like that, or a harder flick, it works beautifully. So here it is taken apart, and as you can see, we've got the stop pin on the blade right there. I don't mind that idea, but as I hopefully have showed you already, the stop pin, it rides in this spot right here, and it's exposed on the front, which I don't really like. For two reasons. I think it's ugly, and it lets dirt and stuff get in via the front. Is that a big deal, the dirt part? Probably not, but it's there. We've got rings right here. Those are races. They are for the ball bearings to, there we go. The ball bearings ride along those because titanium is softer than stainless steel, and it would just wear it out in a hurry. In this way, there's a nice clear spot for them to ride in. Backspacer, very simple. You've got that hole there. That's not a lanyard hole because, as you saw, there is no lanyard hole. That's for the screws to go through, and it's a floating pin right here for keeping it in its proper place. The hardware, we've got a D-shaped pivot pin right there. It's just D-shaped right on the end here. And we've got these high-quality screws to put it together. As you can see, they're very clean. There's no Loctite in there. And I like it when it has no Loctite from the factory. But this pivot does come loose, as I've probably mentioned. And so I like to put my VC3 thread mate in there. And some people like to use blue Loctite. Although purple Loctite is a little bit weaker than blue and makes it easier to take apart. But the purple stuff is a little bit harder to find. Pocket clip comes all the way apart with the back screw, and now you can see how it's made. It's a good pocket clip. I really like it. Good retention, well built. Skeletonizing, you can see here and here, and a large cutout right there, and then a small one right there to help reduce the weight. So that's about it. I'll put it back together and continue with the video. All right, it's time for the specs, measurements, all that kind of stuff. This knife weighs 104 grams, 3.65 ounces on my scale. The sharpness from the factory, 110 best, that's very good. The cutting edge length, 85.4 millimeters, 3.362 inches. The blade length is the same. The thickness of the blade, here at the base, 3.65 millimeters, 0.1435, so over 1/8 of an inch. The blade depth, the widest point is right here, 30 millimeters, 1.181 inches. The thickness behind the grind, and I measured it roughly where my thumbnail is, 0.36 millimeters, 14/1000 of an inch thin. So I like that, nice and thin there. And this brings us to the first con, the grind angles. I'm going to show you an image with the dimensions, the angles, grind angles. First this side, and then this side. So what we see is a lot of variability in the sharpening, which is not uncommon at all. Unfortunately, I wish sharpening was done better at knife factories, but it's one of those steps that gets done by a human, completely done by a human, and it has a lot of room for error, and it often happens. Let's go to the handle now. The handle length, 11.476 centimeters, which is 4.518 inches. The grip area in here, it's a little bit over 9 centimeters, a bit more than 3.5 inches. The handle thickness, not counting the pocket clip, 12.52 millimeters, that's 0.493 inches, so just under half an inch. The handle depth at the widest part where you grip is right here, and that is 27.37 millimeters, which is 1.0775 inches. The depth of the knife when it's closed, its widest right here, 33.02 millimeters, 1.3 inches. And the total length of the knife with the blade deployed, 20 centimeters on the nose, 7.874 inches. And I already gave you the price. So yeah, this is a pretty decent knife. So the sharpening is a flaw. That's not a big deal. Hopefully you know how to sharpen knives, and this will be easy to sharpen up well because it's thin behind the grind, so you can clean up the whole thing and it will still be thin behind the grind and be able to do a lot of good sharpening for a very long time. Let's go over the rest of the pros that I found if I haven't mentioned them yet, and then we'll go over, there's one con that just bugs me. So let's tell you about these things. I like little things like dual screws for the lock bar insert. That makes it really difficult for it to come loose. I like that it's got an over travel stop in there. I like the look of the collars here for the pivots. Looks great. It's a fun knife to operate, either using the flipper tab or flicking it underneath. It does make a little bit of noise, so it can be annoying to your partner. If you're flicking this while you're watching Netflix or something. The grip of it is very comfortable. You've got a flexible range of grips that you can do comfortably. I like this forward section here, although it's not really a forward choil. It is certainly big enough to do a forward grip comfortably. And yet the plunge, sort of follows the front end of the handle. It's got a good look there. The knife overall, it's a very nice design. It's got a really good look to it, and it's just a wonderful knife. But I did say there were some flaws, some cons, so let's go over those. The poorly sharpened one we talked about, this sharpness choil. With this plunge being as gradual as it is, going from the full thickness of the blade down to the bevel, and it's a nice slow plunge. You can't see where the end of it is. The end of it is actually partway down the knife. It's where my fingernail is now. So there's still a bit of blade here that is part of the plunge, and that's why this grind line here, where it's sharpened, starts to get thick this way as it goes up that hill. So the sharpness choil would need to be a little bit bigger if you wanted to avoid that. I wish that plunge was a little bit quicker. That's my main thing about that. Okay, so that's one con. That's not super serious. The sharpening, that's not serious either. The pivot screw coming loose, that's not serious either, because you can take care of that at home very easily, and it won't change. It won't make the knife any worse in any way. It'll only improve it. There's one thing you can't change that I really dislike. This. The big opening on the front here. And why is that there? It's because where's the stop pin? You can't see a stop pin in here, can you? It's because they decided to put the stop pin on the blade. It's one of those hidden stop pins. And there it is. The stop pin sticks out because as it turns, it needs more room. So what I really wish they would have done is changed it so that that stop pin would not get exposed here. You got to change something. Either put in a more traditional stop pin or make the handle come out just a tiny bit further. I just really dislike that. Most people don't look at it, and it doesn't show up in the images. You see pictures online like this, or like this, or like this. You get all kinds of beautiful images of it, and they never show you this. One of the other reasons I dislike this is for practical reasons. It's a big opening for dirt and grime and stuff to get in there very close to your ball bearings. So there's nothing you can do about that. And of course, I didn't know that existed until I got the knife. I'm not one of these guys that watches other reviewers. And I haven't seen any other videos on this. I don't know if the other reviewers mentioned that or not. But to me, that's somewhat significant. Does it mean it's a knife that I wouldn't buy? No, I really like this knife. I don't know if it's going to go into my permanent collection or not. You know, I just can't collect very much stuff because I have to keep selling the knives to buy more. But a knife like this is one that I would consider putting into my permanent collection. It's a very good-looking knife. It's nice and light, comfortable to use. The blade performs well. It's nice and thin behind the grind. It's got a fun factor of that flickability, which is easy to learn on this knife. The detent is nice and strong, keeping the knife closed when you want it closed. Lockup, beautiful, solid. Alignment, very nice. Not perfect, but very nice. The pocket clip, there's nothing negative I have to say about the pocket clip. It's a beautiful knife, and it's under $100 US. So that's pretty good. Of course, it doesn't suit everyone's budget, but it's okay. One other con that some people will have is some people will want a left pocket clip, and unfortunately, there is no left pocket clip for this. Thanks for watching my video. Thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Bye for now.